And then
So
also just like an absurd amount of mayonnaise, right? What is the yeah, 2 gallons of mayonnaise, which makes me a little queasy. But yeah, if somebody came
if
up
you
with a use
have
for
the
that.
chef feet, then that could come in handy.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think when you mentioned back to back poison and honey, it reminded me of something. I think it's in Suetonius. It might be in Livy. It's the army, the Roman army apparently came into camp that had been abandoned by the German. The I guess it was the Arminius, his tribe. I forget what the name of the tribe was, but they were in Germania, and there was all this honey there, right? Well, the honey was had been made by bees who had I think it was hemlock. I think it was
Mm.
they had made it from hemlock flower, so it was poisonous. So the Romans found this like abandoned camp with a bunch of different food supplies. The honey was in there as well, and the Germans basically used poison to incapacitate much of the legion. So then that's you know based on like an historical source. I don't know how true it is, but interesting. So you could play something that way too with
And
the alchemy
those are the
jar.
s- and those are the stories that get told 2,000 years later, right? Like, I don't know. There was one Visigoth with a big axe, right? And he did a lot of damage, but like, yeah, they were clever enough to poison the honey and leave it behind, and literally they honey trapped
Yeah,
us.
literally the honey trap. Yeah.
Um,
I think that,
mm,
it's interesting for me that I think that's why I read history so much. The I love fiction. I was a fiction writing major, but I also had a minor in history. And if I went on for my graduate stuff, I probably would have gone for history because there's so many good stories and it's hard to like make these things up, although I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there were historians at the time who took license with some of it to exaggerate, and some are more reliable than others. But even if there's a kernel of truth in that, it says a lot about the Romans and being able. One of the things I like about the Romans is they in general it seems like they're willing to admit their defeats, and that makes for a story because then they're the underdog when they do win, right?
hmm.
If you're just like, oh, we won every time, ha ha ha, ha, that story gets boring after a while, And the same with D&D. Like, if you let
Hmm.
your characters get away with murder untouched, no damage taken, like they're gonna